We're on page we're on page 243. Okay, let's learn the kitzur. Hashefa, the influence, the hashpah, bechesed, of chesed, hanikzav, that is designated for every individual. Who me'atika? Who remembers what the type of atika is?
Old, like old.
Okay. What other types does atika have?
Beard, right?
And what?
Beard, right?
Antique.
Antique is one type. What's the other one? Strong. Strong. Why do we call atika strong? Because it comes from a place of total strength. Okay? What is a substitute name for atika? A synonym? Let's go. Avi, Moshe, someone? You understand? Very good. Keter. How many levels do we have in Keter? 2. Pnimiyut HaKeter and Chitzoniyut HaKeter. The inner and the outer. So, because this level, this experience is old, ancient in the sense it's ancient, like ancient wine. It's good wine, right? I always say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. We have a system. It's a good system. Now, sometimes you have a corrupt system, so you need to break it. But if you have something that's good, don't search for new systems. I don't know how it's in Eretz Yisrael, but here in America, for the gas and the electric companies, there was a period where they, there's a word in English, they took it away from a monopoly.
They defranchised.
No, not defranchised. That's also true, but it's another word I'm looking for.
No, decentralized.
Decentralized, but there's another word. Anyway.
Deregulated.
Thank you. You understand, your words are correct, but that was the word they deregulated it. Okay. So every Monday and Thursday, I got calls, and maybe when you were living in America, you got calls. Join our plans, cheaper and all that. And indeed, it was cheaper, the rate per whatever, kilowatt. But what I found over 27 years living in my house here, at the end of the day, I did better keeping Con Edison and National Grid, what we have out here in the New York area, in various ways. And I take a lesson from that. B'derech klal, just stay to what you know. The peace of mind. The peace of mind is worth so much more than saving a few dollars. To start, now, there's a whole controversy now. Facebook versus Signal and something else. And I didn't even look into it, All I know is that I'm set up on WhatsApp. It's going well. Just leave it. Privacy and schmivacy. Like the other guys are not going to have your privacy. It's like, if not now, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the next day. So I'm using all this to explain the Atika. Atik is a place in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a place in Hashem that's ancient in the most positive way. It's a place of when you go to it, when you relate to it, when you're there, you feel very, very good. Last night I was sitting at a simcha with old buddies, and usually I don't go to simchas for a long time. Whatever, I go in and out, for whatever reason. But yesterday I was there almost 2 hours. Why? I was reminiscing with old friends, and talking about it. Just the time went, There's something to be said about the Atik. So when you learn Chassidus, a line like this, Avi, Hashefa bechesed, hanikzav, the hashpah of kindness, of chesed, that's been designated, budgeted. Hu me'atika, it comes from atik. You have to train your head right away to think, not in Kabbalistic words, unless you're a real makubal, and you want to be a makubal, and you like that type of plumbing system, that turns you on, fine. But for the average person, it's like, what's going on here? So you have to learn what the word represents and switch in your head, in your brain, to that mode that makes you feel comfortable. And then you won't have a problem saying, chesed comes from atik. And someone says, what? Are you normal? Like, what are you saying? You just give them some of the examples that I just shared with you, and then it becomes very palpable. Let's continue. Avol bo ayedehi soidus. It's not a fait accompli where, hey, I want to have atik today. I want to have some ancient experiences. Let me turn on my old jukebox from the 1950s and play the oldies. It doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way. You need an arousal, an awakening. You need something to give you a kick, where, and to move. Wake up. You come from somewhere. Yeah. You come from somewhere. There's an expression brought in the Svarim Avi, kan nimtza kan hoya. Here it's found, here it is. Really? Where did it come from? Where did it come from? Who are you? Who are we? Big shots. If not for our ancestors, there's a famous Chabad song. It's a pasuk in Tehillim, I think Psalm 22. In you our parents trusted, and we call them parents, grandparents. And I remember Hillel was telling me a few years ago about, again, his ancestors. We don't know, because we're not, we don't know, but possibly an ancestor from way back 100 years ago, a good thing that he did helps us in our life. Botchu avaseinu. The Rebbe once said by Fabrengen, he said almost all people who weren't from come from people, all. Find me a person that you can go back 2,000 years and say they weren't religious for 2,000 years. You won't be able to find. 1,000 years. 200 years, yes. 100 years, yes. But 1,000 years, I doubt it. So why do I say this? Because he says here, in order to evoke this feeling of sentimentalism and ancientism that's comfortable and good and holy, it needs an arousal. You need to wake up and smell the coffee and smell who you are. So in this case, he says, who does that? The 10 spheros. The 10 emanations from Chabad Yoni till Malchus are tools and instruments that trigger something in a person, be it kindness, discipline, rachmanis, endurance, whatever the particular nuance that talks to a person, that evokes in him something, and it goes deep inside, and it brings out that ancient sentimentalism that Atik is all about. It is to the Esser Spheros of Atzilus that man's activity, avoda, umachsoidim, and man's deficiencies have an impact. In other words, in Atik itself, Atik doesn't lose any sleep from our stuff. No. Atik is a level that rides already. It's riding. So you can do whatever you want, it's going. The question is whether I can benefit from Atik. So the avodah of the Jew triggers and touches magia. See the word l'shon magia. It reaches, it touches the Esser Spheros d'Atzilus, and this includes our positive things and our machseidim, our deficiencies. And he continues. And in the previous chapter, he spent time speaking about the way we acted and behaved the previous year. Kain he kitzur shon haba. That's the budget you get for the next year. And remember the mushal that he gave us, such a beautiful mushal, right? The person who loaned you the money, how much he's going to loan you this year, depending on how you react to the loan of last year. Utluya b'tshuva de Elul. Practically, it depends on the tshuva of Elul. The avodah de mei aslichas, more in particular, is the avodah of the days of slichas. Number 3, hakabol al Rosh Hashanah, and the resolution on Rosh Hashanah that I want to make a change and I want the year to be differently. Hamoshel, the Rashab says we gave the moshel mehasaycher v'koinef, from the merchant and his buyers, his suppliers. Hakavona pnimius, not his suppliers, the people who buy from him the merchandise. I'm sorry. Hakavona pnimius b'shefa gashmi. What does Hashem want with giving a shefa gashmi? Give me, right? The famous haliteini in Bereshis. Give me some hot lentil soup. Stuff me up. What's the kavona pnimius? Why should I give you? Why does Hashem give shefa gashmi? He b'shvil kiyum haTorah mitzvahs. It's fulfilling the Torah mitzvahs. Hashem, I want to learn more. I want to help do more mitzvahs. Please, let me not worry about paying the bills. Let me not worry about hospital bills. Chas v'shalom. Let me have simchas. Perek Beis. V'hinei me'amavur baruch hamuvin native. The Rashab says, from all of the above that we explained, Baruch at great length, it's understood very well, Heitev, the Ikir Hu Helikus, that the primary objective is godliness. V'hamazolos, and the constellations, Hemrak levushim, they're only garments, Ushluchei hashefa, I like that word, those words, messengers of the shefa levad, only. That's all they are. They are the gophers, okay? Ve'ein behem mamish mitzadatzma. They have no yoni mamish, mamashut, tangibility. They themselves are nada. Avol hamishtache v'voividoisam, ha 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 ha. But someone who worships and bows to the shluchi shefa, to the sun, moon, and to the dollar bill. What he's doing is he's giving prominence to them as though they are the ones deciding about the hashpah. And that's why it's called Moshe Avodah Zarah, idolatry. Because it comes from Hashem, and instead you're saying, no, the sun and the moon, they're the ones giving the hashpah. This is, God forbid, kfira, denial of the Hashem. Hashem's hashgocha, his providence. And the influence of the energy from him, from the Eibishter, from God. And this person who worships the sun and the moon and the dollar bill, what is he doing? He's giving chashivut, umechashev, importance, prominence to the constellations, and he considers them the mashpia. And that's why he bows to them. Says the Rebbe Rashab, this is idolatry. And just to extrapolate, I like what he says here. When you mechashev the mazolis lemashpiyim, we talk about the importance of having a mashpiyah, right? The Rebbe, I think, in 1986 came out with the campaign Asay Lecha Rav. Everyone should find a mashpiyah. It doesn't mean a rabbi, a rav, because that you don't need a rebbe to tell you that. I mean, sometimes you do, but a mashpiyah, a spiritual guide and counselor. But we have to also be careful. If we consider the mashpiyah as the one giving the hashpah, and not just as an emissary and a shluchei shefa, we're making a big mistake. And it comes back to haunt you. So, with all due respect to mashpiyim, the mashpiyah has to be the type of person that knows that he's a mashpiyah. Of what? Of shluchei shefa. And that's all he is. Yes, Yonason.
Yeah, I'm thinking about all that here. That spoke about the axe, the chopper with the axe.
Yeah.
So we don't thank the axe for chopping the wood. We thank the wood. So it reminded me of a puppet show. You know what a puppet show is?
Yes.
So the guys above controlling the puppet, you look at the puppet down below, you think they're moving, but really they're on strings.
Right. Correct.
So the kid doesn't know. The kid thinks that the puppets are doing this thing by themselves.
Right.
They don't see the guys above.
Right. Well said. Good muscle. Very good muscle. Let's continue. Next paragraph. Why is it, the Rebbe Rashab says, why is it that a person can make a mistake and give credence to the mashpiyim, to the constellations, as though they are in charge and independent? It's because they're dressed in what we call a levush sak, a very thick sackcloth. Which conceals the godly light that's within them, that just doesn't illuminate at all in a manifested way. And what happens that through the hashpah, it's enclosed, invested in nature, and all of a sudden we say, it's nature. You get sick and you get healed. It's because you have a vaccine. That's why there is room to make the comparison. In other words, the obscurity of the mazolis is so powerful that it can lead you to make the mistake to think that they themselves are godliness. Next page. Because if Hashem's energy within the constellations would not be so concealed, everyone would know that the hashpah is coming from Hashem. You wouldn't make the mistake because you see right through them. But because of the many concealments, Hanasim al yedei levushe hamazolos, that are created through the garments of the constellations. That's why the ones who made the mistake they consider the garments for some existence. Imagine you're wearing a fancy coat, a fancy shirt, an expensive piece of clothing, and someone says to you, "Who are you?" "Oh, I am Pierre Cardin. I am Gucci. I am this. I am that." Fool! It's only a garment. Yeah, it costs a lot of money, and you're a fool for buying it for that much money. But that's what it is. But it's only a garment. A nice car. I think I told you the way I used to get my kids out of the house sometimes is I used to sing with them. Da 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 mitzvah mobile. The car is a mitzvah mobile. It's a fancy Lamborghini and a Tesla and this and that. It's a lavush. It's a garment, a nice garment, an expensive garment, but it's only a garment. And if you mix the two, you're totally off track. Let's continue. Bishvil hanoges ha'ilom. In order to conduct the world, kefir tzayni is baruch as HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, sheyeh gashmi, that the world should be physical. V'yisavas hachayas yeh b'derech helen v'hester habayrim me'anivra, and that the vitality and energy should be in a manner that's called concealment, creator from creation, because if it wasn't concealed, it would be overwhelming, and we would never be. So Yitzarech is Islapshul now. That's why Hashem felt it and made it that there needs to be an investment in the clothing, a disguise. For this itself, she slabish chesed b'levushi ateva. The chesed should invest itself in natural phenomena. V'yiyah lefi erech hanivroyim, and it should be according to the measurements and criteria of creatures shalamata here on earth. Look what he says. If godliness would be revealed, and it wouldn't be concealed in the previous mentioned garments of the constellations and all that, the hashpah would be above nature, so the creatures within nature, they would not be able, they wouldn't be able to receive. Too much good ain't good. Yes, Yoni.
So, no, it's interesting because the Rebbe brings it up here again, but like at the beginning of the paragraph when you were talking about the Gashmias, right?
Yeah.
Tesla, whatever. So it's like that story. I think you told us a story. I think it was the Tzamach Tzedek with the guy with the pants, right? He tells me, he says, he wants to buy the fancy pants, like the Armani pants, very expensive pants. And he said, like, this world is, you have pants and they're very nice pants, but they're too big. You're going to trip over and fall over them.
That's what Tzemach Tzedek, in Derech Mitzvah, yes. Yes, exactly. Anyway, so what does it say here? Therefore, we need to have these garments. You have to know that what you're getting is godly, holy, supernal kindness that's been invested. That itself is from Hashem. I told you the story, and it's worth repeating again. And I'm going to be talking about this, I think, next week or week when I make a tribute to Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz, a.k.a. Schwartzy, first Chabad house rabbi on campus at UCLA. Great man, great man. From Baltimore, actually, Hillel, from Atlantic City, then Baltimore.
Yeah, I met him once. A tribute, what's the context of the tribute?
When someone who I know, have had interaction with, I make a tribute about them. I talk about them, what I know, and many people, listen, and they...
Is he no longer with us?
Oh, no, Shlomo passed away. It's going to be his fourth yard site. He passed away at 71 and 72, and Nebuch, he had a very, very difficult passing.
I remember him.
Sorry, I did not know that.
I davened with him.
Yeah.
I remember him well.
Yeah, so Shlomo Sholem told me the story that in the Chabad house on Gailey, 741 Gailey, UCLA in Westwood, they you're talking about 69, 70, 71, those days, they had so little. And they had a car, a jalopy, a junker, and there were four rabbis. Rabbi Stillman, Olav Sholem, Rabbi Schwartz, Olav Sholem, Rabbi Levitansky, Olav Sholem, and Rabbi Kunens, Olav Zayin Gezun. The oldest of all four is still alive. Nebuch, the other three passed away, and I made a tribute about Rabbi Stillman and the other two a few weeks ago. It's been watched by a lot of people. So, anyway, they had a car in the garage. I was in that garage. I see it in front of my eyes. So Schwartz tells me, he says, when I needed to go somewhere, I went into the car and I started the ignition and I went. When Levitansky needed, he went into the car. And Stillman, he did that. And Kunin did that. In other words, the keys never left the car. Because it wasn't my car. It was our car. It was Chabad House's car. It was the Rebbe's car. It was the Abish's car. It was the Mitzvah car. So the keys never go out of the ignition. Whoever needs it starts the car. And he told me this like in the mid 80s, and it rings, it hits me, how we're learning here about the hashpah, the shefa gashmi, the line between, the dividing line between giving credence to gashmias and nature and making it a metzias la'atzwe, which the Rashab says basically is idolatry, and vice versa, realizing that it's only a tool, an instrument that's necessary, is a very, very refined one, and it requires constant observation. Don't take things for granted, because the natural feeling for the human being is, if it's mine, it's mine. I'm in control. I'm the boss, and all that, right? How many people have feel otherwise? Sheli, sheloch, sheloch, sheloch. What's mine is yours. What's yours is yours. Or in the Chabad lingo, mein stickel bread is deiner wie meine. My piece of bread is yours as mine. And Hasidim would say that it's brought not yom yom, and they prefaced deiner, yours, before miner, before mine. It's something that we have to work on constantly. Anyway, let's continue back bottom of the page. From all of the above, we understand the Cholin Slapshus Bamazolis, this entire idea of investing itself, the energy, in the constellations and in the ministers is only applicable in the world of action. Because the investment process is gradual. Initially, the energy invests itself in what we call Hillel, the world of Bria. And we explained earlier the Shom in the world of Bria, the Chesed is not tangible and palpable and materialized. It's yet very spiritual. Why? Because in a Bria, yes, it's already the world of creation, the beginning germs of creation. Nevertheless, the presence of Atzilus, where it came from, is very much felt. It's like, did you ever look at a man who just got married? Avram, Moshe's son, just got married. Now, I knew Avram when he was a bacher. Avram was not fat, okay? Avram was not skinny, but he was fine. Now, most guys, after they're married a few years, they develop a little, what we call in Yiddish, a pempik. You know what a pempik means? A stomach. Their wife feeds them and makes good food, and they eat a little more, and all of a sudden, their stomach grows. And as the years go on, it becomes bigger and bigger, the pempik. Right? Why am I saying this to you? Because he says here that Bria still has a tinge from where it came from, Atzilus. So it as much as it's already creation, Olam Abriya, it still smells the vibes of Atzilus. And since it still smells the vibes of Atzilus, it's still impacted by Atzilus. So I was giving the mashal in the opposite way. That, the further you go away from being a bacher, this is for the average guy, and it's not bad. It's just when you're a bacher, you're immersed in learning and in davening and miftzayim and running around, and it's just an interesting phenomenon, Heavy guys get heavier, skinny guys get heavier. It's an exception for a guy to remain the same, and some do. So why? Because the more distant you are from your years in yeshiva, it wears off. In Chabad, one of the greatest compliments to a married man was, the first 10 years of marriage or so is, he's still like a bocher. You understand? Remember that? He's still like a bocher. He's still like a single guy in yeshiva. That was a great compliment. If after 10 years of marriage, he has the mindset and he has the wherewithal of the bocher mentality, which was like, there is no world, there's only Hashem, there's only Torah, there's only Rebbe, Chassidim, Farbrengens, Mivtzoyim, Outreach, Avos Yisrael. Ooh, that's someone that's really stark, as the Litvisher would say. Really strong. Because the ways of the world have not impacted him. So that's what I was reminded when I learned. When it says here that Bria is impacted by Atzilus. Let's continue. And it says, and so that's why the way it descends from on high, the Chesed requires a gradual progression. And he continues. And afterwards it's invested in the garments of Yitzir Vasiyah. And finally, the lowest of the four worlds, Avi, the world of action, which is the lowest of all. Over there, the energy is completely concealed. That it can then invest itself in the garment of the constellations. Because above, in Yetzirah, for example, where the energy is not so concealed, so it wouldn't be able to go from there directly into the constellations. Once the energy has already gone through another descent, i.e. the world of Asiyah, that's more concealed, that it can still conceal itself in these garments of the constellations. Next page. You remember he began with an interesting saying from Pri Etz Chaim. The Keil Adnai, the two names of Hashem, Keil and Adnai, Shehu Shem Da'asiyah. That is the name designated in Kabbalah for the world of Asiyah. Each of the names of Hashem, or each few names, are, Kabbalah says, associated with a certain world. The names Keil and Adnai together, which equals, remember, 96, like Tzav, is the name associated with Asiyah. Hu begematria Tzav, ve'ein Tzav, Elo, and he quotes the Gemara, and he's going to explain it now. Tzav is used when we're referring to an issue that's associated with idolatry. What a touch. Listen to this. Because when the energy invests itself in these garments, it can invest itself in the thick, in the sackcloth of the constellations, they conceal very much until the energy can be so concealed that it can appear to them that they're the ones giving the shefa independently, because godliness in them is not at all seen or revealed in a revealed way. That's why the name of Keil Adnai equals 96. And the word Tzav is used when it comes to refer to Avodah Zarah. The Keil Adnai him Shem is Kedoshim. Although Keil and Adnai are holy names of Hashem, but because of these names, the energy invested itself. In the constellation, who completely conceal the energy until one can consider and think shehem atzma mashpim, that they themselves are the mashpim, independent, giving the energy. And that's why, because of that mistake, one can serve the moon and the sun and the dollar bill. Lochem Hashem shayidei zehu boy slaps nazois. That's why which name of Hashem is demonstrative of this type of investment. Islapshus, he begamatri itzav, it equals 96. So that's the kesher. You remember when he asked the question at the beginning of the Maamar? How can you say that Kael Adnai, which are names of God, Yonason, are associated with Avodah Zarah, right? Tzav equal 96. And the answer is the names themselves are holy, of course. But these names are the names of the world of Asiya. What happens in Asiya, the light is so concealed to the point that it makes it possible to be interpreted by the constellations that they are in charge. And that means that's Avodah Zarah. Worship the sun and the moon. We already explained earlier. He goes back and forth. He says, that's the danger. But simultaneously, that itself is Hashem's chesed Hillel. The only way, Yonah, you can have actual money in the bank and good health, you need Gashmias. You need Geshem. So it's a two-edged sword. On one hand, the energy, where it comes from, is so concealed that you can make the mistake. It's independent, and you worship the sun and the moon and the dollar bill. And that's why, even though it's Kael Adnai, but it's Kael Adnai as Kael Adnai's demonstrative of concealment, at the very same time, this concealment makes it possible for it to be Gashmias. And if you look at what he says further, and he says, the whole idea, mission, and purpose, why we're here, is to take the Gashmias and make it a Druchnias. So it's like, in a way, it's an oxymoron. On one hand, you're telling me Kael Adnai lends itself to Avodah Zarah. On the other hand, you say it has to be that way. Why? Because we need it in Begashmias. And that's the end. We'll stop here. But that's the answer. That's the answer for this life that we're living. You know, Hashem says, look, what counts is here on earth. Okay? Now, it's very easy to fall into a trap. It's very easy to make a mistake and worship the sun and the moon, etc. But at the very same time, if you don't take the benefit from the sun and the moon and transform it and use it for Hashem, you're not really connecting. You're in a fantasy world. Yes, Jonas. Yes.
The word Kael and Kael Adnai. Adnai means like Adon, the master. Kael is Rachamim. So it's like a benevolent ruler, benevolent despot. Somebody who's benevolent, but at the same time is a ruler. Now, the reason why we don't do Kael, Yud Kei Vav Kei, because Yud Kei Vav Kei is above nature. We don't relate to them. That's chesed. So Adnai, like Hashem, is like a benevolent king. But therefore, it's possible to think that we're getting hashpah from benevolent king on earth. But really, it's the benevolent king above.
Very good. Thank you. I understand what you're saying. Why it says Kael Adnai, not Kael Yud Vav Kei. Okay. Yes, Moshe.
I just want to say that I was listening to one of the shiurim that you gave earlier this year. I think it was in ER. Yeah, it was in ER. I was listening to it yesterday actually, and it was about you were telling over this Maisa that happened, I think, with the Rebbe Rashab and the Frierdiker Rebbe. They were visiting another Rebbe, and and that Rebbe, so I forgot the name, but the Rebbe asked his Gabbai to go out and bring kibud. So the Gabbai goes out to the garden, he brings back apples, and he brings the apples, and he held them somehow in his kapata or something, and he when he came to the table, he opened his kapata and he let the apples fall down onto the table.
Yeah, the paras of a Rebbe.
Yeah. You were speaking something as we were learning this today. You were mentioning the issue about Gashmias and about how we but you were talking about the car. You're talking about the car, the keys never left the car, and how they used the Gashmias simply to serve them, meaning they used it obviously the proper way. But I why am I mentioning what I'm talking about? Because you spoke about the Rebbeim having a certain royalty. There was a Russian royalty that the Rebbeim had that the Polishes, let's say, didn't have. And I can't help but think that it's quite, I guess, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that I think that it's quite an avoda to be able to have Gashmias in the right perspective. In other words, a person might think, okay, Gashmias, yeah, we have to use it. Okay, but we're gonna treat it with the most minimal importance. But when you were talking about the royalty was a refinement. That means that we don't treat the Gashmi as just like garbage. We it's like the ultimate in using it for the right reason and having a certain respect for the one who creates the Gashmis in the first place.
Right.
And I guess I'm bringing that up because I think that's a very challenging level to be on. I think
it is. I just want to conclude because I have to go to another shir. But Rabbi Garari, I don't know if I told you this. The Rashak, the Rebbe's brother-in-law, during the week he would eat his dinner at his dining room table, the Shabbos dining room table, not in the kitchen, not in the side room, but he ate at. And I asked why royalty. The Garari family, considers themselves, and rightfully so, there's royalty. So he wouldn't just sit in a side room. Every dinner for him was a Shabbos dinner. I don't know if that. I think that's what you're talking about, but like you said, you have to be plugged in, and you have to. It's risk. Am I really doing it because of the royalty and the kedusha, or am I doing it because I want to show off? Chevra, great conversation. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Have a great day. Hatzlacha. Bye bye. Bye bye.